Welcome to the slyelessar YouTube channel. I'm slyelessar. I have for you today a review of the wide angle to normal angle lenses from the vintage Olympus Zuiko OM system. And this is just generally for their use in street photography, but I mean you might find this information useful if you're looking at these lenses anyway for film and for digital. This should be a more in-depth comparison looking at the OM lenses and should hopefully decide what's best for you. Just a heads up, at the end of the video I'll be going through the other lenses that I want to review in another video. I don't currently have them, but I will be doing them. Okay, let's get on with the show. So in this lens review I will be going through the 24mm f2.8, the 24mm f2, the 28mm f2, the 35mm f2.8, the 40mm f2, the 50mm f1.4 and the 50mm f1.8. And without no further ado, first up we have the 24mm f2.8. So this lens generally is a very small, compact lens, produces good quality images. I'll stick one up now. So that was shot on Tri-X on the South Bank. So it's quite good on digital cameras as well as 35mm film cameras. It's not quite as sharp as the f2, but it's as near as damn it. It's a very cool little lens. Works well on film and digital. Quite handy for street photography if you want to get more subject in the shot, more of the environment in the shot, and just quite good for, it's great for shots of building and architecture as well. Which brings me on to the 24mm f2. Now this is a much larger lens, much larger. In fact, out of all the lenses of Zuiko wide to primes I have, this is the largest one. It goes from f2 to f16, and the 2.8 goes from f2.8 to f16. This produces very sharp, very clear images. Here's one for you now. And that is also South Bank and deliberately done, so you've got almost a direct comparison with the other one there. This is actually shot on Burger Pancro, the other one was shot on Tri-X, but you can still generally see the results there. The pros for this lens, it's again fantastically sharp, looks the business, it's great on digital cameras as well as film. In fact, it's better on digital cameras than the f2.8. The cons for this lens is it's a lot more expensive than the 2.8, and it's a lot larger and a lot heavier, but not compared to, say, a DSLR lens that you get today. So given the choice, if I'm taking just one or two lenses, I might take the f2. If I'm taking more than two lenses, or just two or more lenses, I would take the f2.8. And well, that brings me on to the 35mm f2.8. I don't have the f2, but I do plan on getting it for future review, so keep your eyes peeled for future videos. So the 35mm lens series in the old Zuiko OM vintage line, they're known for being a bit of a disappointment. They are not as sharp or render images as nicely onto film or digital as perhaps some of the other lenses do, like the 24 f2.8 or f2, or the 28mm f.8 or f2. However, this goes from f2.8 to f16, and it is sharp from about f5.6 to f16. You're not going to have issues there if you keep it around there, and if you're shooting street photography, a lot of people shoot around 5.6 and f8 and f16 anyway. Wide open, this lens is disappointing. It's not horrible, it just doesn't look fantastic. It will work on digital, but why you would use this and not your own branded lens on a digital, you just might as well go and buy that, because it's not as cheap as, say, the 50mm f1.8, which you could readily pick up very cheap. However, it is nice to use. It's fairly small. This one's not in that great nick. What else can I get? Oh, I'll tell you what, I'm going to throw a picture up. And that is from the Leek Street Graffiti Tunnel. Yes, and that's on Tri-X, I think. So overall cons for this lens, again, images produced are not as nice as the other lenses. Wider apertures aren't so great. It's not so great on digital cameras either. If you're looking for a decent lens around this size, you might have to compromise and go for the 40mm f2 or the 28mm 2.8 maybe, or even a 3.5 is meant to be quite good, although I don't have that lens. Yes, so that is the 35mm f2.8, but it's very pocketable. And I've actually skipped one here, the 28mm f2. So the 28mm f2 is just beautiful. This is, it was my, oh gosh, that lens needs a clean. This was my favourite lens from the vintage Zuiko lenses. It's sort of on par with one of the other ones that I'm going to bring up next. And the pros for this is the images are beautiful. Even at f2 you get great images. Obviously there's going to be a little, the edges aren't going to be sharp at f2, the centre will be. All the way through all the apertures, it's very great. It works fantastically well on 35mm film and on digital cameras. Beautiful. In fact, let me stick up a picture from 35mm film here. And just for argument's sake, let's give you another example. Cool. So as you can see, this just renders beautifully. It's a lovely lens. It is pricey, so the cons here is it is expensive. It is one of the more expensive. If you keep an eye out on eBay, you might get lucky. It's large. It's not as big as the 24mm f2, which is this one. Ignore the cap here. It doesn't weigh as much. It feels amazing when it's actually on the camera. Is it my OM1? The focus ring is so nice, and the ring pull is a short distance, so you're not going to be scrabbling round and round for ages. So yes, that's the 28mm f2, and that's when I would have done the 35mm if I'd done it properly. So that brings us on to the 40mm f2 pancake. Now I'm going to leave it on my OM1 because I have film in there and I don't want to be dicking around with it right now, especially with this room can get quite dusty. So this is currently my favourite lens. It looks fantastic on the camera, it's nice and slim. It's currently knocked the 28mm f2 off the top spot, and it's just because this is more ideal for more situations, although 28mm and 35mm are more what I used to using. The 35mm range in the old vintage Zuikos, as I've mentioned, is not fantastic, and this is a brilliant compromise. Goes down to f2. I've got f2 images that look fantastic. Here you go. And that is on Japan Camera Hunter Street Pan 400 pushed to 1600, I think. Looks fantastic, very sharp. Again, from f2 to f16. I mean, this lens, I got pristine condition one. It's beautiful. The only downside is these lenses are very expensive. They're hard to get hold of. Don't pay a lot of money for one that's in crap condition. It really isn't worth it. But this is the ideal sort of walk around lens. Best of all worlds, without sort of getting too narrow with a 50 as a 50 can be. Obviously it's not as wide as a 28, but it's close to 35. It's close to what the human eye sees. It's nice and natural to use, no squabbles, great for street photography. That brings me on to the two 50mm general lenses that are readily available. So there's three altogether, the f1.8, f1.4 and f1.2. I've only got the f1.4 with me, but I have used the f1.8. I used to own it, I got rid of it. So let's start with the f1.4. Again, a lovely lens to look at. Very nice, fits well, feels comfortable on the Olympus OM cameras. Pros are great for street portraiture. 50 is very handy, especially the f1.4 looks pretty cool. The bokeh's got its own taste. A lot of people might not like the bokeh necessarily, but it's quite nice on film. In fact, it is nice on film, especially from f4 to f16. Fantastic, really nice lens. The downsides to this lens, again, the bokeh has its own flavour. A lot of people might not necessarily like that, and digital, it's crap on digital. Just not happy with results. Not crap, that's not fair. Extremely average. You'll find cheap digital lenses that will work and look better. Just generally than this lens. That's just a recommendation of mine. But if you're going for film and 50 is your favourite focal length, the f1.4 is worth it over the f1.8 in my opinion. Moving on to the f1.8, which I don't have, so I'm just going to move this around. In fact, here is a photograph from the f1.4. That's a street portrait for you taken in Spitalfields Market. I've got a few more, I'm sure. Anyway, let's move on to the f1.8. Again, I don't have it with me, so I'm just going to use this. The f1.8 is the Pro for it. It's readily available. It's everywhere. It's very cheap. I mean, technically, the images that come out are better than the f1.4, but it doesn't have the same character the f1.4 has, which is unfortunate, really. Looks okay on digital. You're better off using a proprietary branded lens for your modern digital cameras with that one. Yes, so in conclusion, the best lenses out of these bunches for the wide to normal range for the vintage OM lenses that stand out for me: 24mm f2.8, very pocketable, something you should take with you. The f2 if you can afford it and you're happy for the bigger weight. The 28mm f2 is one of the best lenses, if not the best lens in the range, and I'm going to say that about the 40. Skip the 35s, unfortunately. I am going to do more of a review on those when I get the 35mm f2, and then I can do them side by side like some of my other videos. Go check them out. The 40mm f2 is, again, beautiful. That's something to look at. It's small, it's pocketable, it looks great. And the 50mm f1.4. Okay, check out slyelessar.com. I'm slyelessar. Have a good one. Entropy is going like it wants to release. This quantum shift ain't gonna get me.